Hi, it's Monday, 7 p.m. Career Catalyst Live, just like your favorite show. We are starting on time. All right. So, welcome back to Career Catalyst Live. I'm excited about today's episode. Sorry for the cough drop. It's springtime, enough said. But today, we're talking about the 5 things that you need to do before you apply for a job. I know that a lot of the time, we're so busy living life, right? We're living life, also trying to do a job search at the same time. And for a lot of people, a job search can feel like a full time job. Now, there are reasons for that, but without going into all of that, um, applying for jobs can happen in the blink of an eye, right? It can be one moment you're just scrolling on Facebook, the next moment you're finding a job that you really want to apply for. And while time is of the essence and speed is usually in your favor, sometimes we jump the gun and we end up forgetting to do certain things that are essential for having a quality application, right? So I'm going to go into those 5 things that you should do first. And I'm probably going to throw in a few honorable mentions for you too, just so you can know all these things. But I want you to be thinking about these things because even if you have to just stop, slow down for a second and not rush to apply, I want you to be aware of what you should do first so that you can, like I said, have a stronger application and just feel more prepared. Nothing worse than rushing to apply for a job and the next week you don't remember what it was, right? It happens. And that's because you didn't prepare, you didn't plan. If you had, you wouldn't have had that issue, right? So when you come on in, say hello, give me hashtag live if you're here live, and give me hashtag replay if you are here on the replay. And just let me introduce myself so you know who's giving you all this quality advice, right? My name is Angela M. Zachary. I'm the owner of the Inside Track Career Services, and I do something very, very simple and very dear to my heart. I help job seekers simplify their job search. It's very simple. I don't want it to be a task. I don't want it to be a job within a job, right? I want it to be something that you can do on your own, that you can do just with tidbits of knowledge that you're not going to find elsewhere. This is backed up by 16 years of HR experience, over half of which is jobs. I work with jobs. I move jobs around organizations. I decide who's got the skills and qualifications for jobs. In many cases, I decide what those skills and qualifications are. So it matters to me that you are able to use this information to simplify your job search. Okay, so let's get into the topic for today. The 5 things you should do before you apply for a job. So I'm not a chef, right? I wouldn't even call myself a cook. I can do some stuff, but few and far between. But just like half the people who really can't cook, I like watching cooking shows, right? And so there's a topic or kind of like a way of doing things that I've learned from these cooking shows called mise en place. And that means put everything in its place. Everything has a home so that you can prepare to start cooking. And then when you're cooking, you don't have to run back and get anything. You don't realize you're missing something because everything you need is where it should be. And you're able to reach for it when it's time, right? And so thinking about that mise en place, right? Everything in its place. When you're applying for a job, you also need everything in place. You need everything where it belongs so that when it's time to hit that apply button, you're not saying, oh no, I forgot to put my phone number on the resume, right? Like you're not thinking about those things, okay? So here are those 5 mise en place things, the things that you need to have in place. Number 1, and again, these are not in any order, just like last week. These are not in order, but it tends to happen that this is an easier way to do things, right? It's kind of the most natural way that you're going to end up doing stuff anyway. So, number 1, research the company. Duh, right? Do your research, obviously. But I don't mean research the company so that you can say you researched them. I don't mean research the company so that you can see if they had any scandals lately. I don't mean that. I mean, and when this is when you've decided you're going to apply, right? Oh, and let me just preface this by saying I'm talking about applying for jobs that you qualify for. Okay. I'm not talking about jobs that you just saw and liked, right? I mean, you have looked at the job, you've determined that you have the skills and qualifications for it, and now you are going to apply. Okay. So now that that's out the way, Research the company, not for news necessarily, but for language. You want to understand the language that they use, the values they have, the terminology that they use. And the reason for that is because you want to feel familiar to them. You want them to look at your application, your resume, your whatever, and see something that they're used to. So it's like if I went to the library and I picked up a Harry Potter book. I like Harry Potter. If I picked up a Harry Potter book, but it was in Italian, I'm not going to be able to read it, right? Because it doesn't make sense to me. It's not familiar to me. It's a book I love. It's a book I want to read, but it's in a language that does not resonate with me. And so I'm not going to keep reading it. I'm going to move on. I'm going to find something else to read. So it's the same for your application. You want to be able to speak a language that they are going to be able to understand. And when I say that, so here's a real life example. I was working with a client who had come out of the military. And so they had a resume full of military jargon because that's what we do, right? We give you the language that we know. And most people do not stop to adjust that language. And so I'm reading this person's resume, and it was page after page of acronyms, terms, things that I had never heard of. And I've never been in the military, so I did not have that insight into what they were trying to say. I researched this person's resume, like the terms and stuff, for hours, only to finally realize that they've been working in HR. The place that I've been working my whole career. I've been in HR since 2008. And it took me hours of research to understand that this person works in HR. Here's why that's a problem. If somebody who works in the field cannot understand what you're saying because you're not speaking their language, you're speaking the language of somebody who worked in the military, then those are going to be the only people who understand you, folks who worked in the military. The chances of you getting a person who worked in the military at every step of the process is slim to none, right? So that means you've got to adjust your language from what you are used to and put it in terms that the company you're applying for or applying to is going to be able to understand. Okay. You want to feel familiar. If they have to think too hard about who you are and what you do, they're going to move on. They don't have time to try to decode your resume, right? And more than that, they want somebody who fits. They want somebody who they can easily move into the organization and it won't be too big or too heavy a lift, right? So that's number one. You got to research so you can speak their language, so that when they see your application, they recognize it, right? Okay, number two, you have to research the team. And a lot of people say, oh, that's kind of stalkerish. Okay, well, that's the job application process, right? You're going to have to do a little investigation, okay? We'll just call it investigating. But you need to research the team, and here's why. The majority of the time, you're going to be able to find somebody who works in this organization, whether that is on their corporate website or if that's on LinkedIn, or anywhere really. You can Google a person and find articles about people at certain organizations and things like that. But the reason why is because of two things. One, a lot of the time, folks will express challenges that they're facing in the organization or in the industry on platforms like LinkedIn or maybe even Facebook sometimes. I wouldn't, but sometimes they do. But on LinkedIn, people are more willing to say these things because it is so-called a professional platform. And that means they are expressing their professional issues that they're facing in their work. I've seen instances where, like in compensation, we are not supposed to share certain information with other companies. But on LinkedIn, if someone asks a question that normally we would not just answer, people will answer because it's a conversation on LinkedIn, right? They view it as kind of something social, something to build camaraderie. And so they'll answer these questions that they might not have otherwise answered. Why that's good for you is because it gives you information about what that organization is dealing with right now. And so LinkedIn is a great place to do this. You go in there, you research the organization, and you find the most likely group that is going to be involved with the position you're applying for. And you look at their profiles, chances are some of them at least are active on LinkedIn or have had conversations on there. And you're going to look at that to see what the issues are that they're facing or the wins that they've recently had. And so you can speak to those things in your application materials. So they'll see, oh, this person will be able to help us with whatever it is. And then the second reason for that is because you can look at their profiles. You can see, if you're here, say hello. Come in and say hi so I know you're here and know who I'm talking to. And feel free to ask your questions if you have any questions. But the second reason to research the team is so that you can look at their profile. Oh, this is like taking candy from a baby. You look at their profiles to see what they do. They're going to list what they do, right? Because that's what you do on your LinkedIn profile, right? You tell everybody what your job is. And even in roles where they would not otherwise share that information, they often still do because that is what the job profile or the profile section of LinkedIn tells you to do. So they're going to give you information about the work they do. Now you're going to be able to see who on the team does what. Okay, so the manager does this, and then they've got a few people who do X, Y, and Z. And now you have a picture of the organization and then where you fit in. Then you're going to go further, excuse me, and see what skills they have, and whether or not you stack up against those skills, how well you stack up against the skills that the team already has. If you see that there's a gap in skills, then you can decide, okay, how do I bring my skills and fill the gap for them? And then make it clear there's already a gap in the team and I can fill it, right? Now, you're not going to say, I looked at your profile and noticed your skills. You're not going to say that, but you are going to position your application materials so that it's clear what skills you have and how they align with how the team is already set up. Okay. So that's the second thing, research the team. Third thing, you're going to make sure that your profile is complete. When I say complete, I don't mean like optimization. Sure. Optimization is just make it as good as it can be. That is what optimal means. So you're going to make your profile as good as it can be. And what I mean by that is whatever they're looking for in that role, you're going to make sure that it appears on your LinkedIn profile. And I don't mean for you to do a big overhaul every time you apply for a job, because think about it. If you apply for 5 jobs a week, that's 5 times you're trying to overhaul your resume. My overall stance on this really is the jobs you're applying for should be somewhat similar such that you're not reinventing the wheel every time. So this will not be extremely difficult if you are following that guidance. But when you make sure your LinkedIn profile is complete, you're making sure that it speaks to the role and it aligns with your resume. So if my resume does not read similarly to or tell the same story as my LinkedIn profile, that's a disconnect because now they're going to have questions. Say I was only able to include a few years of experience on the resume, then I can further add to that on the LinkedIn profile. I can even give more detail or more examples of success on the LinkedIn profile so that I'm not using up that space on my resume. And so a complete LinkedIn profile is one that speaks to the types of roles that you're applying to. That's all it means. And that's all it means to me. Like optimization is making it the best it can be, period. Okay. Number 3, this is one that is often overlooked and probably seems unnecessary, but you're going to save the job announcement. Okay. You're going to go up to the 3 dots on the top of the screen, and you're going to save that job announcement. You're going to download it. And here's why. When you save the job announcement, so a lot of times when a company closes a job announcement, right, they're not going to leave it up. They're going to take it down and that's it. You're not going to be able to hang on to it. You're not going to be able to navigate to it. Once it's down, it's down. And most organizations are going to take it down from everywhere they posted it. So if they posted it on LinkedIn, Indeed, on their website, they're going to pull it down from all those places. That means you no longer have access to it, right? That means that you can't see it anymore. Now, some organizations will keep it available for you in their application portal, but say you've not applied yet, like you just want to keep the job so that you can see it. And even those organizations sometimes will take it down from the site as well. So for you to have the job means that you're able to prepare, right? You're able to make sure that your resume aligns with the work. You're able to even save it for the interview stage once you get there, so that you can still be preparing the entire time, even after you've applied. And then also, you can decide if it's a role that you're interested in. Say you get the interview and you don't get the role, or you decide you don't want it. This is information for you to use, right? Now you know I don't fit with this role, and here's why, or I don't want this role, and here's why. And you can't do that, at least not well, if you do not have the job announcement in hand. Okay. And once they drop that job announcement, it's gone. Okay. And then the last thing, number 5, update your resume. I know people hate to hear, oh, customize this and customize that, but you should be updating your resume. And it kind of ties into the first reason about the language that you use. Your resume should not work for every single job you apply for. That's not a thing. Unless the job you're applying for is the same job at the same company over and over and over again. It's not going to work for every job that you apply for, and it shouldn't, because of the reasons I said before. Every organization is different. Every organization has a different language. So if you're trying to use one resume to apply for 50 jobs, let's say 50, I don't know how many you're applying for, that's not going to work. You're going to have to adjust some things, but the goal is to get in front of a decision maker at a specific company. It's not to apply to a bunch of jobs. Like, that is not your job. You're not trying to apply for jobs. You're trying to get a job, right? And so I want you to reframe that. It's not about doing as many as you can. It is not a numbers game. It is a strategy. Okay, there's no strategy in numbers game unless you know how to read cards or something. But the goal is for you to get in front of a decision maker at that organization. So the way to do that is to update your resume. Make sure it speaks to what they're looking for. Make sure it answers the questions inherent and explicit. Implicit or explicit. But make sure that you are always going back every time you see a job you want to apply for. Go to that resume and say, does it answer the question? Does it answer the need that they have? Am I missing something that they're going to ask about later that I can put into this resume? And if the answer to any of that is yes, then you need to update it. Okay, every time. Every time. But the goal, like I said, is not to apply a bunch of times, is to apply as few times as you can with the most strategic approach that you can use. All right, so earlier I mentioned I'll give you a couple extra. I know this was 5, but I thought about a couple more that could fit into the other ones, but I'll just spell them out because that's important, right? So honorable mentions. Get your references. Don't include them in your resume. We're not doing that. But some applications do ask for your references up front, and sometimes they ask for a lot, right? And so if you're gonna apply and then you find yourself, you get to the end of it and it says, give me your references now. Well, now you have to stop. And that's not mise en place, right? You've just had to stop to go handle something else. You maybe that's getting contact info in order. Maybe that's asking the references to use their names. But you want to make sure you have that stuff before you even launch a job search. I'll be quite clear about that. That's not a one-time thing. When you decide that you're about to launch a job search, you need to have your references in order, because you're going to be applying for jobs and you're going to need those references. So ask them, tell them that you're going to be using them. But that's a good thing to have before you start applying, because it could happen that the application requires it. Okay. And then the second one is quite similar. Read through the application sections if you can. So if you decide I'm going to apply and you do your account on it, whatever, Workday loves accounts, try to read through the application sections to see what they're asking for, so you know what to expect. With those last minute applications, like at 11:50 p.m., right? You'd be surprised at how easily you can get tripped up, because I've seen applications where they'll say list your skills, and then you'll list your skills, and it'll say, now tell us every single job in which you've used this skill and how. And that's not something that you can do in a few minutes, right? Not, you can't do it well in a few minutes, right? So when you decide you're going to apply for a job, if it will allow you to skip through sections, just read through each section to figure out what it's going to ask you. And that way you can prepare before that final hour. You can make sure that you've got your responses in line, and you can think about those things, because if they're asking it, chances are it's going to come up in the interview. And even if they don't ask it in the interview, there's nothing like being prepared with examples for how you got certain skills. Because even if the interviewer can't speak to what was in your application, you can, and that's a good thing. So yeah, those are the 7 things you should do before you apply for a job, and these are so important. They're not even very intensive, right? But they're impactful, because before you hit apply, you need to have prepared. Don't apply for a job unless you are ready to, okay? Because it saves you a lot of heartache thinking, oh, I hit apply and I forgot X, Y, and Z. It happens all the time. So this will help you not to do that, right? So next week, I know I talked about updating your resume, and I know everybody hates doing that, but next Monday, I'm going to be talking about how to update your resume quickly. I don't want you redoing or reinventing the wheel every time, right? So that's a really important one, because I know, folks are applying to so many jobs with the job market being what it is. And I want you to be able to customize your resume, but at the same time, not waste a lot of time doing it. Okay. So meet me back here, same place, same time. All right. Bye.